Hi, it's Phil, and I'm here this morning to give you an update on what's happening. We're obviously at this really pivotal moment in South African democracy, in the fight for Cape independence around the 2024 elections, and the deadline for registering for those elections is tomorrow, Friday, the 8th of March. There's lots of stories in the media, and many of them incorrect, and we just want to give everybody an update. Now, I have to say, there are two parts of this story. There's a part around Cape independence and the people who are involved in Cape independence. And it's a totally remarkable story to tell, an inspiring story. And actually, I literally have been moved to tears by some of the things that have been happening over these last few days. It's amazing. Viva la Révolution. This is the making of Cape independence. So those people who are writing us off, have made a fatal mistake and have badly underestimated what the people of the Western Cape want. And the other part of the story is around the IEC and how there is now a real and genuine threat to democracy in this country. The risk, we really are genuinely facing the real prospect that we do not have free and fair elections in 2024. And I'm going to start with that part of the story, the IEC. So what's been happening with the IEC? So in April last year, there was a change to the law, the Electoral Act, and we had this introduction, which is all in the news now, that unrepresented parties, of which we're one, a party that doesn't currently have a seat in one of the parliaments, must get a certain number of signatures, a signature quota. Actually, it's a supporter quota. I shouldn't say it's a signature quota because that's the issue. The purpose of this is very clear, is for parties to demonstrate that they have sufficient support so they're not wasting space on the ballot. And what they were required to do is then get the details of, in our case, 13,200 supporters who will effectively say, I endorse the referendum party to stand in this election. And the danger then, or the problem is, how are those collected? So what we did is we wrote to the IEC and said, can we collect these signatures digitally? Or must we collect them physically? And the IE said, no, you can collect them. We've got it in writing. In writing, they said to us, you can collect them digitally. We then wrote to them again in December to confirm that we were going to collect them digitally and we were going to use the tick box method. And we said to the IEC, if you have an issue with this, please let us know by such and such a date, which they didn't. So ultimately, that's where we went and collected those signatures. And contrary to what you may or may not hear in the news, we did that with ease. So we had to get 13,200. We've ended up with way more than 14,000. And long before the deadline, we submitted it onto the IEC's portal. All of those have been verified as genuine ID numbers of people who are registered to vote, who live in the correct areas, and they are done. We've complied with that requirement. But what the IEC then did at the last minute is on the 1st of February this year, they published some regulations, which were still unclear. They said that we needed to have signatures, which is fine, no problem. But then on the 27th of February, they said those signatures must be physical, by which they mean what's called a wet ink signature. Somebody literally went with a pen and signed a piece of paper, which of course wasn't what we agreed. Now we thought, okay, no big deal. Went to our lawyers and we wrote the IEC a letter saying, look, here's where you told us in writing that you would accept a digital signature. Here's where we told you we were going to use that method, the method that we'd agreed with you. So please, will you just say you're going to accept these? And we thought that would be the end of the matter. We got the most appalling letter back from the IEC's lawyers. And it effectively said, we're not going to accept your signatures, even though you've got them. So first of all, that is totally contrary to the intent of the legislation. In other words, we had to demonstrate that we have enough support. We clearly demonstrated we have enough support. And far bigger parties than we are struggling. The Cape independence is real. Support for the referendum party is real. And here we are. We have these signatures and we've got them. Well, no, we're not going to accept those. And then, absolutely extraordinary, they said that whatever they'd said, we couldn't rely on any promises they've made. Now, imagine that, the IEC, the Election Commission, say you cannot rely on anything we've promised you in writing. So, first of all, that was ridiculous. The notion that we have to have physical signatures was completely imposed by them. This doesn't appear in the law. This is just the IEC deciding this is going to be the case. And they refused to allow our signatures. And more than that, they literally then mocked us in the letter and said, the actual real problem is that your party is too small and hasn't got enough money. It's absolutely, and there we sort of come to the problem that this is the IEC, they're supposed to be running the elections, and here we have this terrible letter saying, doesn't matter what we said. Oh, and then one other thing that I had forgot is when they published the regulations, there was no signature requirement. They said they left off in error, it didn't matter. So it doesn't matter what we promised in writing, you can't trust what we've said. It doesn't matter that we missed off the signature requirement in the draft regulations, that was just an error, shame on us, but you can't rely on that either. And actually, in any case, the real problem is you're just too small to be able to contest. You don't have enough money, and that's the real problem here. So go away. Absolutely terrible, and obviously that's happening to us, and would otherwise risk our participation in these elections. And that's where then is the election free and fair? We absolutely have the support. That's where we stand with the IEC. No problem. That's the bad part of the story. The amazing part of the story is how has Cape Independence responded? And this is the inspiring part that absolutely is just the best thing. And sometimes out of adversity, we bring people together. People realize just how important something is. And something truly amazing, truly special is currently happening in the Cape Independence space. It's inspiring. It's wonderful. I'm just so excited to share it with you. So first of all, what we had to do now, we had to go to court. We've got to go to court to the IEC, and it's extraordinarily expensive. We went and we got some legal advice, and we got some costs. And we're talking into the hundreds of thousands of rands. We're a small party, and we don't have that amount of money lying around. So the first thing we had to do was we had to go and appeal for money. Well, I can tell you that in less than 24 hours, we raised hundreds of thousands of rands in both small and big donations, and we have the money. We've appointed a top-notch legal team, one of the leading advocates in the country. We've actually appointed 2 advocates, and they will now be contesting and fighting this with the IEC and fighting for the right to admit digital signatures in the form of a tick box, which is allowable under South African law, is consistent with the legislation, and we're confident that we're going to win that battle. So that was the first. As an insurance policy, we then said, right, well, let's see how many of these signatures we can convert from the digital tick box format into some form of physical signature, a signature with the finger on the screen. And yesterday, Wednesday, I think at about 2:00, we sent out emails, emergency emails to people across the Cape Independence and say, please help us get these signatures. As I stand here today, so at about 16 hours later, we have acquired more than 8,000 physical signatures in less than 16 hours. And people are rallying around. So here we are, people who are laughing or thinking there's no support for Cape Independence. Let me tell you that absolutely is not the case. What have we seen? We've had this. It's for anybody who knows anything about marketing, it is nothing short of extraordinary. So we've got our 14,000 signatures. We've now busy again to get them. We've got 8,000 so far, and now we're going to go into that court case and with a case that we almost cannot lose. We're going to have this first case around the checkbox. We're then going to have a backup argument on all of these other signatures, and the referendum party is going to contest these elections. But more than that, and I have to say we're not over the line yet, so I shouldn't get too cocky. If you haven't given your signature, please do. Go to www.rp.org.za. Give your signature and get us over that line. Let's get those last few thousand signatures that we need, but we're going to get. But for now, what a great story to tell. Viva la Revolution. Cape Independence is coming, and it's a great time for us as Cape Independence supporters. And thank you for everybody who's played their part.